Hi everybody, I'm Joe Concha for Newsmax, and today we're joined by former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin, who was also a former vice presidential candidate and a best-selling author as well. Governor, thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm so happy to get to be with you, Joe. I love Newsmax. You guys are awesome.
All right, that's an endorsement. The name of the book is Good Tidings and Great Joy, Protecting the Heart of Christmas.
Yes.
The original title, from what I've read, was A Happy Holiday is a Merry Christmas, is in caps. Why the change?
Yeah. Well, I think it was more important to stress the fact that it's imperative that we protect the heart of Christmas, and Christmas is all about good tidings and great joy, as exclaimed by the angel when the angel came to announce the birth of Christ. It's very important that we protect that heart of a faith that's very important in America, because if that's marginalized, our ability, our right to express our faith, well, that leads to an erosion of much of America's great foundation.
Protection from whom, though, Sarah?
Angry atheists armed with an attorney who would want to apply a double standard on those who want to express their faith in the public square or in a commercial building, on their own private property even. We call them the Scrooges, and these Scrooges so often will apply a double standard and say that they are offended if we were to exercise our constitutionally protected right of freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and yet they sure take advantage of that right and kind of hide behind a First Amendment to attack those who desire to express faith. Part of again, that tradition, that foundation of America. It's very important that we not allow that to erode, because history has shown us that nations, that states, that societies that would marginalize and kick out the expression of faith from their culture, from their public square, well, it leads to ruin, basically.
And you seem to also be talking about protection of Christ in Christmas.
Sure.
Expand on that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, today, in too many respects, it's politically incorrect to acknowledge that Jesus is the reason for the season and Christ is the main part of Christmas, which is, it's nonsensical to think that we can ignore that aspect of this most jolly and wonderful holiday called Christmas. So that political correctness, those politically correct police that would tell us that we must boot Christ out of Christmas, we're saying, no, enough is enough of being intimidated and scared of that political correctness. We want to exercise our freedom of religious expression. And I'm not talking just Christian religion, but faiths of all denominations and all religions, or no religion at all, but just exercising our constitutionally protected right to express what it is as a free America that we want to express.
You mentioned Scrooges before, and one character that you have in the book is Joe McScrooge. Now, you're talking about a war on Christmas, all right? I'm talking about the war on Joes, being a Joe Concha, all right?
I apologize.
Yeah, I mean, look, I have average Joes to deal with, all right? Joe Schmo.
You got Joe's six-pack.
Exactly. There was a Joe the plumber who was an actual person.
That's right.
So when you're done with the war on Christmas, join me on the war on Joes, because it's a little too much.
I want to do something with that. That's
okay,
good.
Done. But Joe McScrooge, tell me about him, his perspective on Christmas. He goes to his child's play and he's offended. He walks by his town hall, he's offended. What is he offended about, and why would a guy like that be a threat?
Well, a guy like that is a threat because he has, because of a glitch in law, he has a right to sue based on being personally, religiously offended. Now, we can't go out and sue based on being offended regarding maybe something that a politician says, or that a newscaster says, or that a teacher says. It may hurt us personally, hurt our feelings. We may feel offended. But you don't file a lawsuit against that person or that message, but you can when it comes to something that has to do with religion, which is a very odd thing, because those who would claim some kind of offense get to arm themselves with an attorney and get to intimidate a community or a school or a business and say, you need to, in this case, take Christ out of Christmas, otherwise I'm going to claim an offense and I'm going to sue you. And having been a party in many, many lawsuits, frivolous lawsuits that we always end up winning, I know that it's not a fun process. It is an intimidating process. It's an expensive process to be a victim of a lawsuit that's been filed that shouldn't have been filed in the first place. So a Scrooge like that is dangerous in terms of intimidating those who want to exercise their freedom of expression.
Do you agree with, and this is going off on a slight tangent, but in Britain there's a law that says that if you sue somebody and you lose that lawsuit, you pay.
Oh, I wish. Here's the deal. I know up there in Alaska, we were hit with lawsuit after lawsuit, ethics violation charges after ethics violation charges, only after I was named the GOP's VP candidate. I was the same person, I had the same record, I had the same positions on everything, but all of a sudden, on a national level, started getting all these lawsuits filed because it cost them nothing to file suit. It cost Todd and my children and me a lot to fight those lawsuits. In regards to that law in Britain that says, especially these frivolous lawsuits that really just waste public resources and private resources to fight, I wish that those filing suit would have to have some kind of financial skin in the game, and maybe we'd see some halting of that and turning down the rhetoric of these lawsuits that shouldn't be filed in the first
Governor,
place.
that seems so logical to me.
Yeah.
I would think that Democrats and Republicans could agree on something like that, but is it because there's too many lawyers in Washington that are serving in positions of power?
Well, that's the thing. Unless you're a politician or you're a lobbyist or you're a lawyer, there in Washington, D.C., in that Beltway bubble, you have a different way of thinking. Here, look at what Congress does. And the president supports Congress passing laws that they exempt themselves from, but they force down our throats.
Obamacare.
Yes. Well, that is a symptom of a bigger problem, and the bigger problem is they think that they're different from us, from the normal, average, hardworking American. They think that they're more special, that they should be exempt from what it is that they want to tell the rest of us that we have to do.
Back to the book, and this kind of goes into battles a little bit. A war on Christmas. How do you fight a war on Christmas? I see from reading the book 3 battlefields where this is waged. It's in school board meetings, for instance. It's in town hall meetings on the local level. Yeah. And then more on the national level, it's with retailers. Am I correct?
You've summed it up so well, yes. And kind of sounds like an oxymoron, doesn't it? A war on Christmas. How can there be a war on the holiday that celebrates the Prince of Peace? And yet there is a war on Christmas, which is the tip of the spear that I think is reflective of more generalized here, a war on religious freedom in America, where that message of expression of our faith is being marginalized. We're being intimidated by those who would want to kind of claim an offense taken from an innocent nativity scene with a plastic baby doll representing Jesus in a hay-filled manger, that's going to offend somebody to the degree that they can intimidate a city, a government, a business, a private party, to take that away, boot it out of public view. It's, again, that leads to the erosion of much of America's great foundation. And this book is a call to action. It gives steps both legally, culturally, socially, and in a jolly Christmassy way, what it is that we can do to fight those angry atheists armed with an attorney who would want to kick out God from the public square.
One unsettling image that I read about in the book was crucifixions of Santa Claus in towns, and not just, it just happened once, it's happening in several places.
Yeah.
So it seems like, to make a point, they're taking something as almost more innocent than Jesus, Santa Claus, and putting him up on a cross and saying, this is how we protest.
Isn't that a weird thing? And yet those protesters, they have the right to protest, and I support their right to exercise their expression of whatever it may be. I have a son who has returned from war zones fighting for their right to express whatever it is that they want to express. So I'm all for that, but I just don't want that double standard applied where, oh, it's okay for them to do that, and yet it's politically incorrect and maybe legally not okay, some would say, for us to express our faith.
And there have been some success stories at Target and Walgreens and Lowe's where they had happy holiday signs and they promoted holiday trees, holiday lights, and customers actually said from all religions, we prefer Merry Christmas. And then Rasmussen actually did a poll last year. Do you prefer Merry Christmas signs or Happy Holiday signs? 68% of Americans said Merry Christmas signs, only 23% Happy Holidays. So there are some victories in this so-called war.
And that's encouraging. More victories too are, for one, we see story after story in the news today about the ACLU sending a letter to a local school district saying, heaven forbid you sing a traditional Christmas carol that talks about Bethlehem or anything about Jesus being the reason for the season, or you're going to get sued. And a lot of the school districts, some cave because they're intimidated and they don't know that they have their rights, and that the parents, the families in a community have their rights to express their faith. But you do see more and more people, though, standing up for their constitutionally protected rights. Also on college campuses, where many faith-based groups are kicked off campus and they can't have their Christmas tree sales. Well, a lot of the students are standing up and saying, wait, let's get back to some time-tested truths in this country. And some of the time-tested truths have to do with freedom of religion. And then you also see, as I talked about, the innocent nativity scene that's perhaps been on public display for years and years in a community or in a store, where somebody would come to them and say, that's politically incorrect and you can't do that anymore. Where, say, that business owner stands up and says, I've been doing it for years and I'm going to keep doing it. And then their customers more than ever support that business as kind of a thank you to the business for standing strong. Those are victories.
Absolutely. Fox has been doing this for years, and particularly Bill O'Reilly, the war on Christmas, and it's been a wild success from a ratings standpoint. Every year around this time, the stories about the crucified Santa Clauses and other sorts of political correctness around the country, that's on display. Is that where you got the inspiration for this book? You started working for Fox a couple of years ago. Did you hear those stories and say, you know what, I want to expand on what Fox may have started?
Well, I've been thinking about this for many years, because when I was the mayor of Wasilla and we would have our nativity scene laid out there in a public park, and hearing those threats from others saying, you're not going to be able to do this for very much longer because somebody will file suit. And I would think, well, no, that just hearing that stiffens my spine. It allows me to get out there with a message of American exceptionalism that all has to do with freedom and reflection of a community's values. So even as the mayor of Wasilla, with our own issues with publicly displaying a nativity scene, started thinking about the issue back then. What I have seen since then, though, is more and more of that erosion of sometimes people's boldness in expressing their faith. And I'm saying, no, enough is enough of backing away. We have a voice. Let that voice be heard. Let us stand strong, and wanted to write a book about it to explain how to do it.
What's the one thing that you want readers to take away after reading this book?
I want them to remember more than ever how exceptional America is, because nowhere else are you allowed this freedom, and the freedom to express faith in God, no faith at all. This is America, where we have constitutionally protected rights to express whatever it is that we would believe, and how important it is to protect that. Because if we were to allow our constitutional rights to be adversely affected by those who want to be politically correct, we will go the way of other nations, other states, other societies that have fallen because they don't have a strong foundation of freedom. Nowhere else but America. And here, as we celebrate at this time of the year, Veterans Day, we're celebrating veterans who have been willing to make the sacrifices to defend those freedoms. I don't want their sacrifices to be in vain, and a lot of the book has to do with that as kind of its foundation.
Interesting. Well, you certainly seem to be enjoying this aspect of your life, and we appreciate you joining us. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you so much.
Good luck.
Appreciate you. Thanks.